Okay, we're back with more of the Digimon Friends, and if anybody didn't notice this in the first video, I have my berry plushie in the background. My Digimon, because he's their friend. Barry usually hangs out on top of the Pokemon slash other plushies covered Christmas tree that we have down in our living room, because we're too lazy to put the tree away, but I don't want it just being covered in bear stuff, so we just covered it in Pokemon plushies. And then, when Christmas rolls around, we take them all off and put on regular Christmas decorations. But Barry is kind of the angel on top of that tree for the time being. Yeah. So, this video is another one of the Digimon Friends videos, as I said. This one is going to be about Andromon. As I said, some of the Digimon friend videos will be about more than one Digimon. This one I think is just going to be about Andromon, because we get a fair amount with Andromon throughout the course of the original series and a little bit into the second series. Andromon, we are introduced to Andromon, and I think it is the fifth episode of the first season. It's the Digimon where it's called, I think it's like Kabuterimon powers up or something like that. It's where it's like it's where Izzy and Tentomon fully bond for the first time, and where Tentomon digivolves into Kabuterimon throughout the course of that episode. So the beginning of the episode is the DigiDestined end up finding their way into this place called Fractal Town. And it's basically just giant factorial town, whatever. It's like a giant factory type thing. And they end up in there, and there's like, the factory is building things, but the things have no purpose, because it like builds them and then takes them apart, builds them and then takes them apart, one right after the other. They have no purpose. And they make their way through the factory, and they end up finding this Digimon that is kind of trapped under this, collapsed part of the building or whatever. And it's this giant cybernetic type Digimon. This is, of course, Andromon. Andromon is an ultimate level cyber Digimon. He is actually the strongest Digimon, I believe, that they encounter on File Island. Devimon is very strong, but Devimon is only a champion level type Digimon. But he's still a very strong champion level type Digimon, because he has lots of battle experience, and he's just quite strong in and of himself. Unlike the DigiDestined Digimon that unfortunately don't have as much battle experience, and they slowly get stronger over the course of the series. But Andromon is the strongest Digimon, or at least the highest level Digimon that they end up interacting with on File Island. That is not Shogun Gekomon. Because if I remember correctly, I think Shogun Gekomon is also an ultimate level type Digimon. But I'll go over that when I get to the Shogun Gekomon and Tamamon and Gekomon video. But that'll be a little bit down the line. Because I'm kind of going these in as roughly the right order that the DigiDestined interact with the Digimon. So they end up making their way to the factory. They find Andromon, and they start trying to get him out from underneath the rubble. While he's inside the rubble, a black gear goes inside of his leg and infects him, kind of corrupts his programming. And what ends up happening is Andromon then kind of starts terrorizing the DigiDestined. At this point in time, Izzy has kind of separated himself from the rest of the group. He finds this giant battery-looking thing, and he ends up inside of it. And he starts trying to decode and decipher the Digimon language that's inside the battery, thinking that if they can figure out a way to decipher this, maybe they can find a way back home. It's one of the episodes. It's the episode where Tai kind of rags on Izzy a little bit for being, having so much faith in his computer and everything like that. Admittedly, it does end up helping later on down the line, because it allows Izzy to be able to decode different other types of digital language down the line, but at the time, Ty's just kind of annoyed with Izzy. And Izzy and Tentomon are inside the battery, and they're trying to get it to make it work, or figure out how it works, and Andromon ends up kind of attacking the rest of the DigiDestined. And what ends up happening is, during the course of this battle, the Tai and Sora and Matt all digivolve their Digimon, and they start, trying to fight Andromon, or at least Tai and Matt do. I don't remember if Sora does too, but they are trying to attack Andromon, and he's, using all of his attacks against them, unfortunately. And, the factory kind of gets, they're running around the factory during this whole thing, and Andromon's chasing them. And Izzy is still trying to decipher the code. And in the course of trying to do so, it makes Tentomon digivolve. And then he digivolves into Kabuterimon, and then Kabuterimon is able to then use his electric abilities, his electric attacks, to basically electrify Andromon enough that it overloads his system again, and it shoots the black gear out of him and destroys the black gear, thus allowing Andromon's regular programming, regular personality to then take back over and be in control again, and it allows Andromon to be himself again. And they're able to then, Andromon then is, he apologizes to them. He's like, well, I'm here to keep this factory running. What does the factory do? I don't remember what he said the factory does, but it's like something weird. I don't remember what. But he's supposed to keep the factory running. And so he does that, and he gets, the factory reprogrammed to start doing what it's supposed to do again. Again, it just keeps making the weird things, and it doesn't ever explain what they're for, as far as I can remember. It's probably like in the English translation, it was probably like just some weird thing like muffler caps for cars or something like that. I don't know. Knowing the Digimon at the time, knowing the company that was dubbing them at the time, they probably just did it that way. Just like some random stuff that like kids don't need to know what that is, or kids don't know what that is type thing. But it sounds interesting, I guess. And Andromon, helps them with that, and he helps them get out of the factory, and he takes, shows them, well, the best way to get out of this factory is to go down to this sewer, and then they then make their way through the sewer, which then leads into another friend, kind of two-ish friends, that I'll talk about in the next video. But we then see Andromon again later, near the end of the series, and throughout the course of this time, the DigiDestined have all, they've defeated Piedmon, or they've defeated Devimon. I don't remember if Andromon is one of the Digimon that shows up to help with them building a raft or not. I think he is, but I don't remember off the top of my head, because there were some of the friends that showed up to help deal with that and then to help build the raft, and then there's were some, so I don't remember off the top of my head. But they make their way, they have, they've fought Devimon at this point in time, they fought Etamon, they've started to deal with Myotismon, they went back to the human world, they found Kari, they defeated Myotismon, they came back to the digital world, they've worked their way through 2 of the Dark Masters, they've defeated Metal Seedramon, and they've defeated Puppetmon, and they end up in the city that is, Machinedramon City. And he ends up, they end up in the Undercity. And this is when Tai and Izzy get separated from Sora, Kari, and TK. And they get separated. Kari was sick and everything, and I've went over that in Sora's video, and Kari's video, and TK's video, and Tai's video, and Izzy's video. And so they're separated, and the DigiDestined end up, Tai and Izzy end up meeting up with Andromon, who has somehow made his way there. And they start, he's like, well, I'm here trying to fight the Dark Masters and, try to fix the digital world and everything. And, trying to, help and everything, because Andromon is a good Digimon. And he helps Tai and Izzy find where, Sora and Kari and TK are, and they get there. And Andromon witnesses when where Greymon destroys Machinedramon, and then Andromon is then with them when they get up to the top of Spiral Mountain, and Andromon kind of helps them in regards to trying to fight Piedmon. Andromon also gets turned into a keychain when they're trying to fight Piedmon, when he's on his keychain kick. Unfortunately, I wouldn't mind like an Andromon keychain. Most of the keychains that, admittedly, I don't like Piedmon. He's my favorite out of the Dark Masters, but I don't like him overall. Well, yeah, I do kind of guess he is my favorite out of the Dark Masters. Metal Seedramon's kind of cool looking too, but moving on. I like the keychains that Piedmon makes. of the DigiDestined and their Digimon and their friends and everything. And I wouldn't mind some of them as like an actual keychain. I don't have any Digimon keychains. Um, um, but they, Andromon helps in that battle, and he gets changed back when, Magna Angemon comes along and fixes them and revives them and everything, and he helps against Piedmon and his army, and then the DigiDestined then have to fight Apocalypse. They get separated and they fight Apocalypse, and then after they defeat Apocalypse, they end up back at Primary Village, and Andromon takes this picture of all the DigiDestined and their Digimon and several of their Digimon friends and Geni at Primary Village, and Andromon's the one that takes that picture. I don't remember if he somehow like gives that picture to like Izzy or Ty or what, but he like gives that picture eventually, because we see that picture later on like someone's dresser or something, I think. But like that's just one of my favorite images from Digimon, because it's just like all of them together and everything, and it's like them with their Digimon friends and their Digimon partners, and Geni's there and everything. And it's it's like this happy moment right before they all have to go back to the real world. Andromon then, of course, says goodbye to the DigiDestined, because, they have to, then they have to go back to the real world, of course. And then we cut to season 2. Kari ends up in the DigiDestined had ended up in a kind of very modern-ish type city that's, I think it was just called like, honestly, I think it was called like Heavy Metal City or something like that, or Heavy Metal Town. The dog might join us for a moment. We'll see how long this lasts. Are you going to stay? He's trying to bark at the neighbor dog. No. You want to stay in here and help me finish the video about Andromon? Sit. Sit. Good boy. You can sit there for a moment. I'll pet the dog. He's like, I'm cute, someone pet me. Yeah, I know, you're cute. And just because I can. Here's another picture of the dog with Barry. With the Barry plushie. You're so fluffy, I know. But they end up in this, I think honestly it's just called like Heavy Metal City or Heavy Metal Town or something like that. But Kari ends up getting separated from the rest of the group, and she ends up having to run around the city, trying to hide with her and Gatomon and everything. And what ends up happening is this is when Davis and TK have to kind of work together for the first time, and the dog's leaving. And you got the dog treat. It's when the dog shows up in the middle of the video and then leaves. But, and it's when TK and Davis have to kind of work together for the first time to try to save Kari. And, Davis kind of has his jealousy issues, of course, with TK at this point in time. But they make their way back into the city and, to get Kari. And Kari and Gatomon are trying to escape, and then Andromon shows up, and Andromon has been is being controlled by the Digimon Emperor because of a dark ring. And yeah, it is called Full Metal City, not Heavy Metal, Full Metal. And Kari ends up seeing Andromon, and she of course recognizes Andromon, and she starts walking toward him, and TK is like, Kari, we don't even know if that's the same Andromon. And Kari's like, no, I know that it is. And she walks up to him and he like picks her up and is like, honestly, I don't know if he's like ready to vaporize her or not. But he's like looking at her and everything. And he's like, you look, his programming is like, this looks familiar. Like, Kari looks familiar. And he looks over at at Davis and he sees like, Ty's goggles on Davis's head, and he's like, oh, references back to the picture, sees the goggles, looks at TK, references, realizes that he's the same little boy that had been there, and, you know, like this other stuff, and like, this is Kari, this is the same little girl that had been there, this is, you know, Queen Kari type thing. And like, he's looking at that and he's like, what is this? And it's like, you know, like the images of the picture are like coming back into focus and everything from all those years ago. You know, however long it was, like in digital years or, you know, real life years or whatever, it's like slowly coming back to him. And he remembers, you know, realizes, you know, who Kari is, and that allowed him to, you know, break out of the Digimon Emperor's control, and then he breaks the Dark Ring, which of course, you know, Ken, you know, Digimon Emperor does not like, and that then leads him later to making the Dark Spiral, of course, because he realizes that like his Dark Rings can't control things fully that are 100% control things that are like anything higher than like a champion level Digimon. He can control a champion level Digimon and anything below it, but he can't control anything higher than that, you know, fully with just the Dark Ring. So he makes a Dark Spiral, and you know, Andromon remembers them and everything. And then he, you know, works on, you know, he destroys the control spire, and then he works on, he's gonna like, you know, freeing the Guardramon that are in the city, and you know, he's, you know, able to resist the Dark Ring now. Unfortunately, I don't think we ever see Andromon again throughout the course of the series. I like Andromon a lot. I kind of wish they would have found a way to bring him back, but they didn't. I kind of wish they could have, but they didn't, unfortunately. He could have always shown up in like the final battle against Malamyotismon and been there and, you know, helped with that. He may not have had a Digimon partner, but, you know. Side note, we do see a Meramon in the second season, but it's a Meramon that's like a Digimon partner to a girl from India. But we don't, it's never confirmed that that is the same Meramon. And I don't necessarily think that it is. Although, if anyone out of someone that was like connected to the DigiDestined would have gotten like Andromon as their Digimon, I would have put it as either I would have probably put it as Jim, Joe's brother, could have gotten Andromon as his Digimon. That would have been good. I think that would have been good for Andromon, for both of them. I think that they would have gotten along quite well. Or, of course, he could have gone to, like, you know, Sora's dad, or Matt and TK's dad. That would have been okay. I would have been okay with that. But, you know, Andromon doesn't get a Digimon partner as far as we're aware. There is a different Andromon / Guardramon that appears in Digimon Tamers, but I'll be going over that when I do the Digimon Tamers series. But first, we're going to work our way through the rest of Adventures and Adventures 2.0 and Try and all that. Other side note, when Andromon evolves into his Mega level, he digivolves into High Andromon, which I actually like High Andromon. I think he's actually kind of cool looking, and it would have been interesting if they found a way for him to do that in the actual series. Just to, you know, show something else outside of the bad Digimon, or, you know, the DigiDestined's Digimon that can get that high in level. I think that would have been quite interesting to watch. But that's what we got for Digimon, for Andromon, for that Digimon friend. So I thank you for watching. You know, we had the dog show up, we got Barry and the Digimon in the background. So I thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye. Faces. Long ago. DigiDestined. I love jigsaw puzzles. Now I see the complete picture.